I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again on the New Forest for a walk. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the pretty little village of Boldre, which is about 2 miles north of Lymington in the south of the forest. And today we're going to be doing a 4.5 mile circular route, starting and finishing here at the church. And we'll be heading north up to Newlands Copse and then into the Roydon Woods Nature Reserve and then back down through the village. And no doubt we'll be coming across some lots of interesting things to see as well. So do join us. Well, before we start the walk, we're going to have a little look at the church that's just on the outskirts of the village, just behind me here. Isn't that lovely? The St John the Baptist Church. Now, there are 3 Saracen stones in the early foundation, so it could have been an ancient place of worship, maybe a henge or stone circle as long ago as 2000 BC. And the origin may be the reason for the church's very unusual position, high on a hill and well away from any village. In fact, there are a few churches like that in the New Forest, things Brockenhurst and Bramshaw, placed on high ground in the centre of scattered parishes rather than in one particular village. Now, the church isn't actually mentioned in the Domesday Book, although that may have been a mistake, as it thought there may well have been a Saxon church here before the Norman invasion. But it's generally accepted that the present church started to be built by William I just shortly after the New Forest was created in 1079. Put it this way, the church celebrated its 900th anniversary in 1987. But just having another look at it here, the early building is obviously Norman, but with additions in the 13th and 14th century. And then just looking up at the tower there, the lower tower was built in the 14th century and the upper part rebuilt in 1697. In fact, I can see a date plaque with the name of the church warden halfway up the tower. Oh, and look at that lovely wooden sundial as well. There was a major restoration here in 1855, and for centuries it was the mother church of the southern New Forest. Well, what's interesting about this church is that there's a really big connection with HMS Hood, which was a British battleship that was sunk in a battle with the German battleship, the Bismark, on the 24th of May 1941. All but 3 of the 1,418 crew lost their lives. The overall officer in charge of HMS Hood at the time was a Lancelot Holland, and he lived in the village here. And in fact, inside the church, unfortunately we can't get in because it's closed, there is a memorial which, amongst other things, there's a painting of HMS Hood by Montague Dawson, and there is a glass window. I wonder if that's it here, just above the porch. It's got a little anchor in the window there, possibly. And there is a commemoration day or annual service of commemoration that still takes place on the nearest Saturday to the 24th of May. Okay, just as we're making our way out of the churchyard, I ought to mention a chap called William Gilpin, because you see a few references to him in the churchyard. He was an artist and author. He wrote The Forest Scenery in 1791, and he was vicar here for 30 years. He died in 1804, but not before founding a school in the village in 1791, and it moved premises in 1875, but still operates in the village today. We're now headed away from the church, initially heading east before we turn north, and passing towards Hayward's farm. Oh, look at these lovely horse chestnut blossom. That beautiful, so delicate. Well, we're continuing to head up this track and we're following the line of an old ancient boundary bank on my left here, and that's called Howe Copse. And I meant to say at the beginning actually, Boldre, the village name, the origins are Celtic, from the word, I have no idea how you pronounce it, Boldre. I'll put it up on screen in text, but I believe it means stream or something like that. But, the weather today is just about right for walking. It might look a bit dark in here because I'm under a canopy of holly and oak, but I'm filming at the end of, where are we? Yeah, towards the end of May. We're still making our way along this track towards Dilton Farm, and I'll pan round to show you where we're heading. That's the farm in the distance, and then on my right we've got a field full of cows, including lots of youngsters as well. And in the very, very far distance, where that row of trees is, just beyond there is heathland, and that's the site of where RAF Bewley used to be, a World War II RAF airfield. And in fact I have done a video walk there, so if you haven't seen it, do check it out. Well, I've just made our way through Dilton Farm. We're now heading west towards the Newlands plantation. Incidentally, as we came through the farm, there was an old corrugated iron building, and I seem to remember reading somewhere that it might have been put there at the end of the Second World War, taken from the old RAF Bewley site when that was decommissioned. It does have a look of a hangar about it. And just as we're walking along here, if you ever wonder what happens to old 4x4s when they die, well, this is obviously where they come. Okay, there will be prettier aspects to the walk as we go along, I do promise. Well, we've made our way into the Roydon Woods Nature Reserve, the Newlands plantation, and well, there's a few bluebells still holding on to their colour. And this is a lovely old ancient wood with beech and oak, and oh, look at that lovely foxglove there, beautiful. And the nature reserve itself is something like 950 acres, and it's run by the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust. In fact, just as we came into the woods, we saw a little sign telling us a bit about the sad story of ash dieback, which is a problem at the moment. Well, if you're following my route from the start, this is an important signpost up here, because although it says Boldre to my left, we need to just carry along where it says going to Brockenhurst, although we won't be going all the way to Brockenhurst, I hasten to add. We're just going to carry along. Okay, and we're continuing to head west, and this is very much the heart of Roydon Woods. You sometimes see flooded clay pits amongst the trees here. The old Roydon brickworks were located somewhere around here. Oh wow, isn't this a pretty scene? And this is actually the Lymington River, which is 14 miles long. It rises in the north of Ocknell enclosure, and for the first 6 miles it's known as the Highland Water to Boldre Bridge, which is near Brockenhurst, and then it joins the Ober Water, and from then on it's known as Lymington River. It flows into the Solent. In fact, we crossed the Boldre Bridge in our Brockenhurst Black Knoll video. And let's go and have a little trip over the bridge. Oh, isn't that a beautiful, peaceful scene? Oh, don't jump, Logan. And again, that's to the north. Okay, fella, let's kick on. And in fact, just to the side, I can just about see through. Hopefully I'll be able to get some pictures. Make our way through these brambles here. And in the far distance, that's Roydon Manor, which was built in 1692. Although much of it was rebuilt in the mid-20th century. It was originally a manor house, and then it turned into a farmhouse. Indeed, a 1913 map still shows it as a farmhouse, but a 1946 map shows the name back as Roydon Manor House. And it was bought by Edward Morant in 1771, and the family still own it today. The original manor dates back to at least 1250, when Henry III granted it to Netley Abbey, who held it until the dissolution of monasteries. But we won't get too near, because obviously it's a private house. Another peaceful little forest track, bordered by thick woodland either side, well on the right anyway, and providing a nice cool canopy from the heat of the sun. Just over to my left, some equines making use of the shade. I wonder if they're all related. They'll look quite similar, don't they? Wow, the sun is really out now. It's quite glorious. So we've said goodbye to the woods, and we've been walking down a quiet country lane back towards the village, and we keep coming across these lovely little cottages. Look at this one here, Tidebrook Cottage, and I can see a date in the wall out. What's that? 1719, I think. I can just about make it out. Isn't that pretty? Looks like they've got apples growing over there. Little metal pergola thing. Well, now back in the almost centre of the village, as it were, I come across a slightly unusual object on what looks like a little village green. Well, I pan round and I'll show you. I'm actually standing on Perkins Piece, which is a bit of land given to Boldre Parish in 1977. And what is this, you're probably asking yourself. There is an information board by it, but basically in 1715 there was a cottage, shed and forge here, basically a thriving wheelwright business. It was still here up until just before World War II, when it became derelict and demolished. Now this object here was unveiled in June 2018, and it's an iron wheel bed, very much an example of the type a wheelwright would use, fitting an iron tyre around a wooden wheel. So basically the wooden wheel was clamped onto the wheel bed, and the metal tyre heated in the forge until red hot, and then placed around the wheel, and then water used to douse the flames. And as I said, there's a little information board here, and in the picture there's a yew tree just on the left hand side, and if I pan round, sure enough the yew tree is still here. And this is the Red Lion pub, which sadly isn't open. But it dates back to the 17th century and was rebuilt in the 18th century. It was formerly 2 cottages and stables and became a pub in the 1800s. Now while I'm here, I ought to mention there's another pub just down the road in the next village called the Fleur de Lis, which is one of the oldest pubs in the New Forest. In fact, in the entrance passageway there's a list of landlords since 1498. Although it's believed that beer has been sold there since 1096. I'm now heading west again. I'm going to cross the river again very shortly. Lots of these lovely old buildings. Another one there. What's that? 1786 that I can make out. And all the way through this village there's loads of really attractive cottages, some thatched, some cob. Oh, another sighting of Lymington River. Isn't that beautiful? With the lilies down there. And this is Boldre Bridge. Listed, built late 18th century, but maybe much older. A very old 16th century map shows a bridge here. And it was one of the main crossing points of the Lymington River. In fact, the river used to be tidal all the way up to here, before a toll bridge was built at Lymington in the 1700s further downstream. And look at these grooves on the bridge here. That now those have been made by warps when boats used to be tied up here. But the bridge itself has got 5 spans of semicircular arches on short plain piers. Well, we're nearly at the end of our walk now, heading back north, uphill, back towards the church. Really quite enjoyed this one as well. We've just passed an entrance to Rodley's house, which is a Georgian house, sort of listed grade 2, probably built late 18th, early 19th century, but quite impressive. It's private, so I didn't want to get too invasive. And I say all along here the colours at the moment are quite exquisite. Lots of rhododendrons here, which I know they can be a bit of a thug in the forest, but they do look lovely when they're out in flower. Thank you. Well folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up or a like, and do make a comment. And if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe. That way you'll be able to join us for a walk sometime in the future. Well, unfortunately, the pub's closed, so Logan and I are off back home now. So thanks for watching, and until we meet again, cheerio. But the overall officer in charge was Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland. You power off. Action. The overall officer in charge was Vice Admiral, I can't say admirable, Admiral. Action. The overall officer in charge at HMS Hood was Vice Admiral Lancelot Holland, Lancelot Holland. Admiral Lancelot Holland. Action. The overall officer in charge of HMS Hood at the time was Admiral... Oh, God. Now there's a car going by. Admiral. New parallel. Right, start again. 3 to 1, action. The overall officer in charge of HMS Hood at the time was a Lancelot Holland, and he lived in the village here.